related to the course, but I will be very glad to answer. All right, so any questions you put in the Q&A. All right, don't put in the chat, because the chat, by the time 11:30, 11:35 thereabout, or maybe even earlier, 11:25, I will end the lesson, then I will start answering questions. By then, in the chat box, you will have more than 100 entries already. So I can't go to the chat and start to scroll down and see whether there are questions for me. So, but then the people will know, once the question they put in the chat, I never answer, they will quickly re-ask again in Q&A. All right, so let's discuss the backdrop, the context of investment principles and investment strategies. That is the real estate market characteristics. Now, very quickly, market means what? Somebody wants to buy, and somebody has something to sell. All right. So, and then the buyer give an offer. An offer is called a demand. All right. Somebody put the property into the resale market as a listing. That is called supply. So, developers in Singapore, they are all suppliers. Government is the biggest supplier. And then our exclusive sellers, they are all small suppliers. So they are called the supply side. And then the buyer is the demand side. So the buyer is very, very easy to define, because whether you buy a new home, you buy a HDB flat, you buy a resale property, all right, you are all called the buyer, and you're on. So as a real estate salesperson, we are the only equation on the buyer side. We are on the buyer side, because why? Whether you serve the seller or you serve the buyer, I don't care. You are the one who gives the check offer, right? You are the one who present the price offer. So that's why the developers are so reliant on real estate agencies. All right. Despite all the technological breakthrough, despite that, the developer still pays a lot of money for real estate salesperson to sell their new home product. So in fact, this is something actually quite difficult to understand. It's actually not logical one. Okay, but never mind. So now that is called the real estate market. So what kind of characteristics it has? What kind of nature it has? Number one, it has no central market. It doesn't have a like Singapore Stock Exchange, where all the stocks and shares are traded in the portal, right? Within the portal. Okay, and real estate market, the products are traded as it is, meaning resale one, sometimes you can sell something with the broken roof, right? You can sell a resale property with a pop-up parquet floor, right? So that is called the state of repair. Where it is means the transaction most of the time will then happen at the very same location where the property is. Of course, except new home. So there is a certain implication for investors and for real estate salespersons. Because why? Because you have to actually understand the location. Number two, non-transparent in terms of how prices are negotiated, because most of the time the negotiations are done behind closed door, away from the hearing of the relevant parties. All right, so there's a lot of secrecy involved. Okay, so there's a second characteristics. So it's very difficult for analysts to predict or exactly this property will be sold at how much. Will be very good if we can predict a certain narrow range. If we say, oh, okay, I think this one can be sold 1.6 to 1.8 thereabout. Okay, so of course, real estate salesperson, we have a greater say than any analyst or valuers. When we say that this property can be sold at 1.8 million, for example, you're very confident it's 1.8 million because you have done all the ground research. But the bank and the valuers engaged by the bank may have a very different way of arriving at the indicative valuation. All right. So, but most of the time we are correct. Number 3 is called information failure. Information failure. Now, my background before I become real estate agent many years ago, I worked in the Internal Security Department under Ministry of Home Affairs. So, my job, I spent 10 years there as a young person. I was there like mid-20, I was already there. So my job basically is to analyze security situation and then present it to my bosses, and my bosses present it to the minister, right? So now, so my training is all studying intelligence failure, all right? So, of course, the department also sent me to England to do my master's. So my master's is in international relations, and in international relations, we study war, all right? How war started. And war started always because of intelligence failure, all right? Like Pearl Harbor, you definitely study Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor is a classic example of intelligence failure. Let's come back to real estate. Now, so what has Pearl Harbor got to do with real estate in Singapore or in your business? What has Pearl Harbor got to do? Now, in our business, Pearl Harbor happens every morning. Because why? We sleep very late one, okay? I don't know about you when I was still actively selling, sometimes you get home, it's 2 a.m. already. All right, because sometimes your customer want to talk to you. Sometimes you negotiate until very late, okay, and then the property is so far away from home, and then by the time you reach home, after you wash up, you sit on your bed, then you look at the clock. Wow, so early in the morning. So real estate agents are always sleep very very early one. When people ask us, oh, so how late you sleep? No, I sleep very early one. How early you early? My agent friend all say sleep very late. No, I sleep very early, 2 a.m. All right, so when we wake up, sometimes it's 10 a.m., right? Sometimes 11 a.m. And then after that, when you look at your handphone, cooling measure come out. So that's called intelligence failure, right? Information failure. Or suddenly you switch on your handphone in the morning, 10 a.m., 11 a.m., you switch on, and say, HDB changed rule again. Then after that, suddenly, okay, some kind of news, price drop already. Oh, okay. Now all sorts of information come in, actually surprise us. All right, so as a result, because there are a lot of surprises, so then it make it very very difficult for us to forecast demand. So we may tell our customers, I think the Chua family is going to come back to offer 1.8 million for your property and all that. Then after that, something happens, they never come already. Alright, okay, so it has always been like that. It will never change. I'm very old school. There are certain things that I tell you, I don't think it will ever change. No central market, it will not change forever, will be like that. Non-transparent. You hope that it is like that. Because if negotiation is regulated, then our job can be overtaken by AI. AI cannot take over our job because of the unregulated fashion. It cannot be regulated. All right. So therefore, nobody can write an algorithm and replace all of us. Its service has been disrupted already. So now taxi also operate like Grab. All right. But for us, no way. In the next 10 years, no way. Right? Because why? Because you cannot formulate demand, and the property is localized because it cannot be moved. So if you want to buy an Hougang property, you go to Hougang, and then you need to understand, you need to acquire the local knowledge. All right, so it's actually slightly tougher lah. So when you want to write an algorithm, and then you have to consider, okay, Hougang is different from Lim Chu Kang, Yio Chu Kang, Chua Chu Kang. All right. Okay, highly segmented. You have different properties are classified or categorized by their different function, their socio-economic function. All right. So there are financial function, right? Okay, you buy to stay, that is a different function from